Welcome back to America Decides. We are following several significant developments in many prominent immigration cases, all revolving around actions taken by the Trump administration. CBS News Department of Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane is with me at the desk, and CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez joins me now from Jena, Louisiana. Camilo, I'll get to you in just a second. The signal was breaking up ever so slightly. We'll keep an eye on the gremlins there in Jena, Louisiana. Scott, you're here with me at the desk. No single signal breakup here. Catch us up on this back and forth today in a federal district court over Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man incorrectly, by the Trump administration's own admission, deported to El Salvador.
A man mistakenly deported to an international prison. This is a mistake that's got to get fixed, and soon, according to the representatives of Mr. Abrego Garcia and according to the judge
and the Supreme Court.
And according to a 9-0 ruling from the Supreme Court. Where did it go today? Well, there was a hearing, an emergency hearing scheduled. The judge asked the Department of Justice a few point-blank questions. What's his condition? Where is he? Whose control is he under? The Department of Justice didn't answer any of those questions, saying they walked into the courtroom without getting that information from the Trump administration. It did not go over well.
One might say they slow-walked.
I think that's charitable, but the judge put in the docket today something quite striking and very representative of this moment, that the Department of Justice failed to follow a court order, which makes this a bigger situation than just the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. If there's going to be defied court orders, you start rumbling and shaking the foundations of democracy. She's ordered another hearing for early next week and says she wants daily updates until she gets an answer as to where Mr. Abrego Garcia is and why he's not back home right now.
Camilo, you're in Jena, Louisiana, following the case of Mahmoud Khalil. What happened today?
Hi, Major. A federal immigration judge at the Justice Department inside this detention facility behind me in Louisiana ruled that the Trump administration can continue and move forward with its effort to deport Columbia University activist Mahmoud Khalil. The Trump administration has cited two legal grounds under U.S. immigration law, Major, to try to deport Mr. Khalil. The first one is invoking a little-known immigration law that allows the Secretary of State to determine that a non-citizen is deportable because his or her presence or activities in the U.S. pose adverse foreign policy consequences for the U.S. The judge sustained that deportation ground, saying that the DHS had met its burden to make him deportable under this law. But the judge did hold in abeyance the second immigration violation allegation, which is that, according to the DHS, Mr. Khalil engaged in immigration fraud by not disclosing certain information in his green card application. So this is obviously a significant legal setback for Mr. Khalil and his team, and a victory for the Trump administration, which has been targeting foreign students on college campuses who it says are engaging in activity that is pro-Hamas. Of course, the administration has never presented evidence, Major, we should note, that links Mr. Khalil to Hamas or any other terrorist group. And I should note that concluding this hearing, Mr. Khalil was able to speak and offer some remarks. And he said that the judge in this case had previously talked, Major, about the notions of due process and fundamental fairness, quote unquote, but he said those principles were not followed in this case.
And Camilo, we're focusing on this case not only because of the free speech implications it might have, but also it's a test for this kind of maximalist use of available laws running across a spectrum of U.S. law, not necessarily particularly or granularly related to immigration, nevertheless being applied to potential deportations.
Yes, Major, the Trump administration is moving aggressively to fulfill the president's promise to conduct the largest deportation operation in American history, and in the process is invoking little-known, rarely used immigration laws, including this Secretary of State power to pursue people like Mr. Khalil, but also the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport suspected members of Tren de Aragua. But we know that many of the individuals sent to that Salvadorian prison under this wartime authority are alleging now, Major, that they are indeed not gang members. And so this will continue to be contested in the federal court system. But the administration is not hesitant at all to use these rarely invoked sections of the immigration law, which are objectively very harsh and sweeping in nature.
Camilo Montoya-Galvez in Jena, Louisiana, thank you very much. Scott, I want to talk to you about this case involving Henry Villatora Santos. There were lots of accusations made in a kind of heavily publicized event near the nation's capital a few days ago. And there's been a substantial reversal from the Department of Justice. Walk us through that.
Remarkably curious case. There was a news conference scheduled by the U.S. Attorney General, carried live on many of the cable networks a couple weeks ago, announcing the arrest of an MS-13 leader, the East Coast leader, they said.
That's what they said.
Responsible for violence, all kinds of violence all across the country. They just dropped his case a couple days ago at the federal courthouse in Virginia, which got us asking, well, why would you drop the case of the MS-13 leader?
Someone that the Attorney General Pam Bondi called very violent crimes. Anything you can associate with MS-13, he was the leader of it. All of the violent crimes, unquote.
Three big issues here. First of all, the indication is they want to drop the case so they can just quickly deport him. But there's two problems there. First of all, there would be victims and victims' families of all that violence that would like to have their day in court, have some justice, have them held accountable in the U.S. What's more, if you don't go to court and make any accusations, and they've specified none of this in their court filings, how do you have to prove it? What do you have to show that those allegations are true before you deport him to El Salvador or elsewhere? This is raising a lot of concerns with critics of the Trump administration.
And there's a precedent of doing this, prosecuting someone so once they are deported, they can never come back in.
We had a former federal prosecutor tell CBS News this is exactly the person you do prosecute, to first of all, for a deterrence message, second of all, to avoid him ever getting back in the U.S.
If the evidence is strong enough to prosecute. Scott MacFarlane at the desk. I appreciate it very much.